I'll tell you what it was. I used to think that being educated meant using big words. And so I memorized big words out of the dictionary, and anytime I had to write an essay, I would use these words out of context. I was like the brother who went to jail, memorized the dictionary, came out and tried to use all these big words, but didn't really know what they meant. I was the brother who said, you got that flatulence of the irrigation of your mind-blowing situation, and what you need to do is think about the collaboration in your heart. And so I stopped caring about school, and they said, that boy must not speak English. The next semester, my best friend Alex called me, and he told me he was on his way over to my house and that he wanted me to stay up because he had something to share with me. I waited up until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and Alex never showed up. And the next day when I went to look for my best friend Alex, someone pulled me aside and said that Alex had been killed on his way to my house. That a group of guys jumped him and they threw him into a car. And then they strangled him with guitar string. And while my friend was fighting for his life, one of the cowards stabbed him in the throat with a piece of tree bark. And then they threw his body off of a cliff where his remains were discovered by a jogger the next morning. And I remember walking into the funeral home and saying goodbye to my best friend. And I will never forget the wire marks that were around his neck and the wire marks that were on the insides of his palms. And I'll never forget the sobs that were coming from his baby sister, who was curled up like a ball next to his casket. When my best friend Alex died, something inside of me died with him. And I guess you could say my soul was crying out with that poet Paul Laurence Dunbar, who said, a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in, a minute to smile and an hour to weep in, a peck of joy to a pint of trouble, and never a laugh but the moans come double, and that is life. My spirit began to cry out with that existentialist philosopher who said that life is an endless pain with a painful end. And so I said, people like me, we ain't supposed to make it. Whether you black, whether you're brown, whether you're yellow, whether you're white and you're poor, you ain't supposed to make it. And so I dropped out of high school. And I was sitting in a park one day. And a brother walked up to me. He was about 6'8". And he said, brother, you don't know me. And I don't know you. He says, but can I tell you something? He says, I was once addicted to crack cocaine. He says, and I lost my job because of my addiction. I lost my house because of my addiction. I lost my wife and my kids because of my addiction. And he said, I was sleeping behind a dumpster when a local pastor came and found me, took me in, cleaned me up, and helped me get back on my feet. And my brother, I just want to share with you what changed my life. And he says, brother, I want to let you know that you can have life and have life more abundantly. He says, you were created with a purpose and a plan that you do not yet realize. He says, you were created for something so great, but if you give up now, you will never realize it. And so this gentleman named Martin helped me see that I could break the cycle of pain and poverty in my life. He helped me see that I could become the father that I never had. He helped me see that I could create a life for myself and my family and my community, that I could make a difference. He helped me see that just because I'm from the ghetto doesn't mean that's where I gotta end up. He helped me see that just because I'm black, because I'm poor, because I am where I am, that I can still become somebody in this life. And so I went back to school, and the next semester I made all A's and 2 B's. I made the honor roll. And people often ask me, how did you go from being a high school dropout to where you are today? How did you go from being an ESL student to being a successful businessman? But because I never have time to answer the question, I ended up writing this book. For anybody who wants to shake off mediocrity, for anybody who wants to make a change in your life, for anybody who wants to realize the greatness that's inside of you, I wrote this book, and I encourage you to get it for yourself or anybody you know who's settling for average and mediocrity.